I'm Luke Melky, helping you master the art of filmmaking. Today we're talking about... So what is the director's notebook? Well, it's basically everything that the director needs. It's their brains. Everything that the director has thought through and envisioned is in that notebook. So what all does a director's notebook include? Well, it includes things like the script, which hopefully is pretty obvious. I like to have actually two different copies of the script. One that I've made all my notes and scribbles and everything on it that I'm probably the only one that can read it, even if I'm able to read it sometimes. But I don't need my actors or my crew to necessarily see all the notes in the script. So I will show them a different copy that maybe doesn't have nearly as many notes on it so they can see, oh, this is what they need to do. They don't need all the extra scribble stuff. So a lot of times I have two copies of the script, one for myself, one that I am able to direct with by visually showing the actors or the crew what they need to do. Log line and one paragraph descriptions. I know it might seem like, well, I know what my log line is. I know what my paragraph description is. It's just a good idea to have it there just to keep your mind focused on that. Because when you're in production, sometimes it's easy to get lost in the moment. Well, this is what I'm feeling right now. This is what Well, if you don't have that log line, sometimes you'll have like every scene will feel like it's a different film or directed differently if you don't have that constantly in your mind what you're doing. So I like to have it there so I can look at it quickly. Every time I open up my director's notebook, I can see the log line, the one paragraph description to ensure that I am actually doing that day's shoot with the full film in mind. Because your film isn't just one scene. It's a series of bunch of scenes that need to weave together to make one full story. I like to have the theme of the film in my director's notebook as well. This is whether it's like a lot of the films I do have some type of message behind them. So I like to have that remind me, why am I doing this film? But also you want to have like the theme of where is it going? What is the purpose behind this film? Because if you don't have the purpose, the desire to drive behind what it is, if you don't have that theme down, it's going to be hard for you to create the emotion that's going to build and come to that ultimate theme of your film. Shot list and storyboard. That's another big thing you want to have in your director's notebook because especially on the smaller sets, you want to know what's happening at all times. You need to be able to direct people. A lot of times in smaller sets, you're the director of cinematography, a lot of times even the camera person. So you really need to know everything that's happening with that. So a shot list and storyboard is great. Here's a copy of a storyboard that I did. I prefer a shot list because this is what my storyboards look like, and yeah, you probably really can't tell what's happening with something like that. So I created them and found out those didn't work for me, so I stick with primarily shot list, but it's really up to what works best for you. Sometimes people have both of them in there, or they have someone that's able to draw up the storyboards for them. That's great, because that really works well to visualize what you're trying to do. But if you're not able to do that, just a shot list works great as well. The schedule. You want to make sure you have the schedule along with you at all times. You need to know if you're on schedule, what needs to come next in that day's shoot, or what's the next day's shoot. Because when you're creating your film, you need to think about more than just what is that day, what is that scene. You need to be able to think beyond that. And the schedule will help you be able to think beyond that. What have we already shot? What are we going to shoot? So you can really figure out how are we going to tie this in? How hard can I push the actors today if I know they're going to have a really emotional day the next day? So I need to know how my schedules and all that are working out. Well, if they have a day off the next day, this set of actors, well, I can probably push them a little bit harder. I can go, well, can we shoot an extra hour today? Knowing that they have the day off the next day. So that gives me a little more flexibility, but I can go, let's go ahead and shoot for an extra hour today, and then not noticing that they have an early rise and shine the next day. It's going to hurt the next day's production. So it really helps you to know what is the schedule, what's happening when, just to keep everything in mindset of the big picture and not just the moment. I also like to have like the locations, the images of what the locations are when I do my location scouting, and have some props and things like that all in there as well. Because then I need to know also what are the descriptions, what are the notes on those locations, so I can think about it when I get done with the set, get ready for the next day. I can open up my notebook, I can prepare for the next day, or if someone comes to me and like, hey, we're setting up for the next shoot, what about whatever? I have the notes right there. I have to think, oh no, and get pulled out of the moment of creating that one location I'm already shooting with, I can give them descriptions quickly because I already wrote them down. And that's something I actually did in a production a couple years ago. I was having another crew setting up the big scene that was going to have special effects and everything in it. So everything had to be just right while I was shooting another set. And I actually had people calling or texting and coming to me going, hey, what do we do for this? And I had to know what to do without being too distracted for the moment. You want to have your characters' backstories and descriptions with you at all times as well. Because if an actor has a question, you need to be able to answer them with, this is why the character is feeling this. Remember in the backstory, this is the emotion they're going to be pulling from. This is their family history, whatever. That's going to make them react a certain way. Because acting isn't just acting. It should really be able to pull on emotions that are already there. So it's reacting from their backstory. Your backstory is what creates who you are today. The same thing is going to happen with your actors. So how do they respond today is based on what was happened maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Just the whole life is going to affect what they do that day. So you want to make sure you have your character description and their backstories with you at all times. Beat sheets. And I don't mean those purple things that really most people don't like. They should stay in the ground. But we're talking about what is the rhythm, what is the main point of the scene, or what are the three main points. Every scene should have a beginning, middle, and end. But you also want to have what are the beats through the film. What are the big emphasis points? And we'll talk more about what is a beat sheet in another video. But real quick description is it really helps you know what do I need to emphasize? How am I building the scene up to a certain point? If you know you have to reschedule a shoot for that day because you're running behind schedule, you know what shots you can take out and which ones you need to keep, because what is most important to your beat of the scene or of the film, you need to make sure you give those points more time than the portions of the script that they're really not as important. They're not big beat moments. So why have a director's notebook if you already just know it all in your head? Well, it really helps you be able to grasp your vision. If you can't put down what you have in your head onto paper or to some digital form, it's not really a vision, it's a concept. And until you can actually get it out and organize it in a way that it creates a complete package, it's just a concept. Once you get it out, it becomes a vision. And there's a big difference between a vision and concept. If someone has questions about concepts, a lot of times you kind of stumble and hum and ah, and you don't really have a good answer, or you kind of have to make up an answer on the spot. But if you have a vision, you've been able to write it down, you really understand that, and you have a solid grasp of that. And then you're able to say, oh yeah, this is what it is. But even if you didn't write it down before, you understand your vision well enough that you're able to come up with an answer without kind of just being oh yeah, maybe this will work. Because you really understand your vision. Without a vision, your production is going to become a nightmare. It's going to be really hard to manage. Make sure everyone's on the same page. Because without a vision, you can't really communicate to others what your actual goal is. A director's notebook also relieves stress. It means you don't have to remember it all just in your head. And if someone has a question, you have to try to remember all these different random pieces. Okay, well, what about this? What about this shot? What do I need? What is the shot list? Okay, why am I shooting this shot here? Especially if you have someone who likes to challenge you as the director, saying, well, I think this, I think that. If you don't have it written down saying, here's why we're doing what we're doing, it just becomes more stressful. So having a lot of the stuff written down in advance really helps you relieve stress on set. And you really want to relieve stress on set because creating films can become very stressful very easily. And so the more stress you can relieve, the better. It also ensures everyone's on the same page. Because if you can write it down, everyone's able to read it, everyone can follow those directions and that vision. It gives your production a consistent direction. A lot of times films are not shot scene 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way through to the end. They're shot in random snippets. And if you don't have these notes and some of these descriptions down in advance, you're shooting scene 5, then 3, then 8, then 4, then 16, and then 3, and then have to go do a reshoot somewhere. It can get very confusing very quickly. Where are you in your film? What is the beats? What's happening right now? So if you don't have some of these stuff in your director's book, it's going to be hard for you to really grasp what is happening at that time. How does it fit into the big picture? It really just, overall, you just really want to make sure you keep that big picture mindset. It also helps you, let's say if maybe you get sick or for some reason you're not able to make a shoot or not make it on time, you're able to give your director's notebook to maybe your assistant, and they can go through and get everything either set up for you, get ready to roll, or they can actually run the production for you, because they can very easily see this is their vision, this is what their goal is, now let's make this. That way it'll keep you a little bit more on schedule. And if the director is not able to make a shoot for some reason, that's really going to be a killer to the whole production. But if you have all of your brains written down so someone else is able to look at it, that will help a lot. Well, here are a few of the best practices that I follow when creating a director's notebook. And not every production is always going to be this way, and some productions might have more stuff, but this is just my general guide of what I do with my director's notebook. I want to make sure it is tactile. I don't want to be out there with a laptop for a couple reasons. One, it can be distracting to the people I'm trying to work with. I'm looking at a screen, looking back up and down. The sound, it can be distracting. I'm trying to take notes that way. Writing on paper is much quieter. Also, there's something about the tactile that just really helps connect with the art of filmmaking. Filmmaking could have gone digital long before it did. The technology was good. But part of it, what kept it back, was not just tradition for tradition's sake. There's something about having the time, having that tactile, that organicness to your film that creates an art that really ties the artist in with their art. If it becomes too easy, it's very easy to get just disconnected. If it's not the tactile, that feeling with it, it's very easy to become disconnected with it. So having it written down, writing also gives you more freedom. You can write a note off the side, here, there, all over the place. That's a lot harder to do on a computer screen. So try and keep it tactile. I like to make sure I have pens, markers, highlighters. That way I can mark up my script, my notes, pretty much in any way. Some of my notes have been pretty extreme. I just throw a bunch of stuff onto there. I highlight different colors for different things, for different characters. And it really helps keep things organized if you can use different color schemes and if you're able to use different pencil styles. And I really prefer using pens and pencils instead of pens, because I can erase a pencil. A pen I can't. That makes it permanent. So try to use pencils, highlighters, and markers. Highlights and markers for those that you know are going to be permanent, and pencils for writing your notes. Scratch paper is a big thing to keep in your director's notebook, whether it's just paper with lines on it so you can write on it easily like a notebook, or blank pieces of paper you can draw pictures and write descriptions with it. I also like to keep storyboards in my director's notebook that don't have anything on them, so I can easily draw up, well, this is kind of what I'm envisioning, draw it here. Yeah, my drawing isn't that real great, but it does help get my vision across. Another thing that's nice to have in your director's notebook is your business card and marketing material. You want your business card, so if you're on set somewhere, if you're using someone's location, the owner's like, hey, why are you using this, or can I know more about you? You can easily give them that, or there's just people working there. Also having marketing material, if you're shooting out and about in a public place, people are like, hey, what are you doing? You've got really cool equipment. People will ask questions. It's a good time for you to kind of mark your film like, hey, if you want to share with your friends, you were on this set, and you just hand out marketing material and help get a little more momentum for the film that you don't have to pay for really. It's also a good idea to have contact information for your cast and crew. I know some people just put it into their phones, but if you're getting to like bigger sets or bigger productions, you might not have everybody's names memorized, especially if you're right off the start. So you can put down in there, this is the effects team, this is the camera team, this is the actors for this scene. And it's easy then to just put them all down inside there. Oh, it's this group. And inside there they have those. So you can easily find who you're looking for. So just, you want to keep their email addresses and their phone numbers especially. It just really helps speed up with communication, because you really need to be communicating, especially if someone doesn't show up on set, or you want to know, hey, can we move this forward? Can we change this? You want to easily be able to contact your crew and actors. I also like to have a larger director's notebook. This is mine, the one I have on set. It's obviously a bigger one here. It has way more space than your typical notebook. And the reason I want this, I want to have lots of pockets, so I can put in the contact information, I can put in my business cards, I can put in my pencils, my markers and highlighters, I can put all the extra papers. This one here has just a lot of random pockets, and I pretty much use all of them when I'm working on set. because I like to be able to keep everything organized, not just all thrown together in the same folder or the same notebook. That's just little notebook, and that just gets really cluttered and really difficult. I can easily pull it out and organize everything and then pack it all back up and have it easily portable. Now, the last thing I like to do with my director's notebooks is keep my director's notebooks for later. So this is actually the first bigger production I did, Where Was My Guide? And this is most everything. I didn't keep everything in here. And the reason I like to keep it is I can look back at, oh, what did I do this one time? And you look back, oh, that's what I did. Or you're like, no, that just didn't work. You look back, okay, that's what I want to make sure I avoid. And it's just good to go back and learn from what you've done before, whether it's learn from your mistakes or learn just, oh, that's right, that's what I did. And I keep most everything in here. For all my productions, I keep something like this. Pull it out. It's a lot easier to learn and grow because as the directors, as filmmakers, you always need to be growing and learning. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please like, comment, share, subscribe. Now, before you end this video, I would highly encourage you to grab a piece of paper or pull up Word or something like that and just type out several ideas for videos that you like to do, something you have a passion for, because you can never create your production until you've created the idea.